short and sweet so we can all get back to our grind. Um, so again, super humble, super grateful. If you could introduce yourself really quick, let everyone know who you are, where you're from, and then we'll get right into it.
From actually from New York, from Long Island, New York. If you couldn't tell by my accent, that
Okay.
that I'll hopefully never lose. But I've been in Florida about 10 years. Been at FFL now since 20. Let's see, technically the end of 2018. Went full time 2019. So 7 years.
Okay. And what was your first year like? Were you obviously we were in the field back then, right? You were in the field. I think that I was going to ask you what your split is right now. You still running the field, correct?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. I've kind of fought it for a while. This year, at this point, I'm probably like 90% virtual, like 10% in home, because I've kind of gotten a good lead flow, which we can get into, with IUL leads. I still have local mortgage, but I've been doing like a ton more virtual. And my goal is, by end of the year, I could be totally virtual and probably sell more, honestly, because it's just more time that you have in front of the computer and talking to people.
There's pros and cons, I think, to each, but I think that we're refining the telesales process, and with the leads that we can generate, it's kind of a no brainer at this point to
Yeah.
be able to sit here and talk to people all over the country. So to be the level or to get to the level that you're at, I know that you're big on mindset, you're big on the schedule. Take me through that really quick. It's Monday, right? Is there something that you do on Sunday, or what does it look like to be you waking up to crush this week?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I'll say this. If you're not overwhelmed when you get up in the morning, I don't care if it's Monday or any day. If you're not overwhelmed with, and I'm going to say this from a producer and a team builder, because I'm both, with clients, appointments booked, dials you need to make, agents you need to talk to, interviews. If you're literally not overwhelmed, you're not going to make as much money as you should. So like my day today, I'm up at whatever, 4:30. I'm in the gym, in the sauna, in the cold tub, in the shower, on the phone. First appointment's 8:30. I think I had 2 or 3 appointments booked for me. And then I had 2 agent calls. I got this call. I got another 2 agent calls. And I got maybe 6 or 7 other appointments booked in between leads that I need to call to either book an in-home or book a virtual appointment. So like my day is just like packed to the gills. And then I'm also trying to be with the team building. I'm trying to be like a great basketball player and then a great point guard. So when I'm going through my leads, I'm booking stuff and selling stuff and all that good stuff. And then I'm overwhelming myself in my lead flow and sending stuff to my team to get them moving. So it's just literally the day is like completely stacked and scheduled out. And I'm in my house and it's like I'm literally like at a job. Like I'm not roaming around my house and doing things around my house. Like I'm literally like my calendar is so booked, I barely have time to go to the bathroom. So if you're not doing that, to me, you're missing the boat. Because we all have the same amount of hours in the day. It's just a matter of how you're using them and are you maximizing them.
I That overwhelmed feeling is like the uncomfortable that we're supposed to be, right? If you're not uncomfortable, you're not in the right spot. So um, if you're not feeling that way, you got to get on the phones. You got to send more messages. You just got to get to work. What is the single most important mindset shift you had to just get to where you are? Because the level you're at is 0.0000001% of the agencies or the industry. So, has there ever been something major that shifted for you, or have you just gone to work, put your head down, and crushed it?
We all have our days where, like, if we asked anybody on this call, honestly, how many times you wanted to quit insurance, we'd all sit here and say like 27 times a day, right? Because there's things about this industry that are beyond amazing, and we all know they're beyond amazing. But then, like anything else, there's things that are challenging. For me, when I started, I came from corporate America, and my job ended in corporate America because I was dealing with people that were idiots that were running where I was working, and I just wasn't going to deal with it anymore. And it ended, and we parted ways. And I knew I needed to make something happen, and this came about. So kind of right off the bat, the mindset was more like, all right, like I have to make this work. There isn't a backup plan. So I didn't have enough time in my brain to be like, hey, let me worry about, the things that I'm afraid of or worried about. It's just let me go to work every day and like good things will happen. And I've had that throughout. And look, the fact of the matter is, like I said, every day and hourly, we're all going to deal with things that are a challenge, a cancellation, somebody, cancels the appointment, whatever. But you got to lean on two things. One is knowing the industry and company we work with and for, where people are winning, right? Like, it's not like I'm the only one selling a lot. There's thousands of people that make the money here that like doctors and lawyers make, right? So you have the belief in the industry and where you work. And then two, do you have the belief enough in yourself to understand that the only good agent is the one that knows how to deal with adversity? Everybody can sell when everything's amazing and great, but can you sell when things aren't going well? Like if you just had 5 negative things happen in a row, are you able to pick yourself up and understand that like you could pick up the phone on the next one and sell $300 a month and it would erase the last 5 problems that you just had? So I've always kind of had that like amnesia mindset. Like I'm not going to worry about what happened before. I'm only going to worry about what's happening next. And the same thing holds true if something amazing happens. I'm not going to sit there and like, say I'm going to Disney World because I sold 1 policy. I'm going to get back on the phone and act like it didn't matter. I sold 30 grand this weekend. I'm running today like I sold nothing. I don't care that I sold 30 grand. Good for me. I'm worried about tomorrow and what's next.
Said something huge in there where, because I was just talking about this with one of my agents. It's like, I don't want to we'll hire whoever, right? We want to hire, but I want to hire that person whose back is against the wall, because that's who is going to either come out of the gate swinging, they're going to be coachable, they're going to listen, they're going to dial, they're going to do whatever it takes. And that's exactly how I was. I started with $100 in my bank account. I live in the world of recovery. My life was a mess. All I did was work, and it fixed everything. And whatever, a bad day, a no sale day, it is what it is, because you can wake up the next day and you do 15 grand, 14 grand, 10 grand, whatever it is, right? So, all right, let's get into the meat of things. Lead flow, sales process. What are you running right now for leads? Where are they coming from? Do you generate them yourself? And then we can get into sales process after that. But start
Yeah.
with leads.
Yeah, it's interesting. So leads have evolved, like you had mentioned earlier, like we were so in-home. I was like Mr. In-home forever, like roaming around Miami, door knocking people, like running, 8, 10 appointments a day, like just going at it like crazy. That kind of evolved, this year in more virtual. So I use Clever Closers as a company that I'm using for IUL leads. If you follow me on social media, I do a lot of IUL reels, and they're basically running my reels through their system that I'm paying them to manage. And then people from there are clicking on the ad, and then I have like they call a lead connector. It's a high-level CRM, like the million of them that are out there. People then see the ad, they're interested, they book directly through that to my calendar. If they don't book, they then get dripped on for multiple days. So that's like one of the sources. The other one, it's kind of the same concept, Arturo Johnson Consulting. I'm sure a bunch of you guys have used them. It's the same thing, IUL lead. It's just they're running their own ads, not mine. So those are kind of the 2 predominant ones that I do. I still have a mortgage mailer down here that I've had for 100 years, Lead Concepts. Those are basically the 3. And what's cool is, and I had to get my belief up in virtual, was having enough appointments booked on the calendar. We know that virtual is kind of like that, 40 to 50% show ratio, and then being able to kind of take them from there to the close. What's helped me, I think, is me doing my own reels and then people seeing me in the ad, and then, you know, they see me on the phone. I do think that plays a part into it, because I think people, like, they kind of see the credibility visually and then they talk to you. Not to say you have to do it that way, but I think it's helped me. And then, you know, getting them on the phone, and I try to make, you know, the appointments for IULs or what have you. I just try to make them simple, understandable, and, you know, kind of get people to the close and, you know, kind of get them on the books.
IUL calls always one call, or is it like discover? Because there's so many ways to go about it, and sometimes, you know, if we're overfunding, it's not just like a hey, wham, bam type of call. So,
Yeah.
Does it vary, like, case by case, or are you just one calling everything?
Predominantly I'm one calling, but I think you just hit the nail on the head. Like, the thing about this, and it kind of goes to like when we talk about scripts and this and that, like, every situation and every client's different, right? If, like, I had one before, this lady had like 7 policies. She's very affluent. She owns a business. She's like 61, whatever she is. And she's paying like $1,200 a month in policies, and they're all like term in one whole, right? So she wants an IUL. I could have pushed it and probably did a big one right then and there, one call. I wanted to, but I kind of, for her specific situation, because of how affluent she was, I rebooked her for Wednesday. Now, she might not show up on Wednesday. I don't know. Who knows? That's how I handled that one. Predominantly, people, depending if we're going like 100 to 500 on a fund, I'm probably not doing that second call. Like, I'm usually always gauging to close you right then and there. I don't personally do Zooms for them. A lot of my agents do. At the end of the day, there's a million different ways to skin the cat. Is Zoom good to do on the second call? Yes, if they show up. If they don't show up, it sucks, because obviously they didn't show up the second time and you wasted a whole first call. So I do think there's some feel to it, but predominantly, yeah, probably 80 to 90% of the people that I'm talking to on an IUL, I'm going through it. I'm making it simple enough. I'm taking them to the close. And then if I feel like they do need that second call, or the quote unquote, you know, we need to figure things out a little bit more, then yeah, like in the case of that lady, I'll get her to a second call.
Yeah, I had a guy yesterday who wants to fund an IUL with $8,000 a month, right? So I'm always willing to tell on myself that's slightly outside my comfort zone. And I'm going, you know, I'm going to consult. I built a ton of rapport with the guy, and basically he was like, everybody is trying to sell me this policy on one call. You're the first person that didn't. So there's something to say for gauging that process. Now, again, will he pick up tomorrow? I don't know, but I wasn't going to push that.
Right. Correct.
You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
I did.
Yep. I agree.
So, sales process wise, run me through a typical, like, say one of your $100 to $500 a month IUL calls. What are main points you need to hit? You know, just give me a rundown really quick of one of these calls.
And here's one of the things I'll say to IUL calls or anything. How I've always looked at this business in any appointment, and I've done everything, final expense, mortgage, the whole deal. Every appointment to me is the same. And what I mean by that, for any agent that's on here listening, is if you hone in on only one thing on any type of appointment, you're limiting yourself. And what I mean by that, we'll use IUL as an example. You know, probably, I don't know, 60% or 50-50 of the people that are looking for IULs won't qualify, right? Their health won't qualify, age, whatever. So what I mean by handling every appointment the same way is run an appointment like it's an insurance appointment where you're looking for their needs. Obviously, if they're looking IUL, retirement, what have you, you're asking about, you know, early on, I'll always ask, I'll actually say this. I'll say, you saw an ad based on IULs and retirement investing. Tell me what you were looking for. Because right off the bat, what I'm trying to get from them is I want their interpretation of what they saw. They might not know anything and have no idea. They might have a little bit of an idea, or they might be like your guy who he's spoken to like 6 people already and he has an idea. So right off the bat, I'm figuring that out. Then I know where I'm going. Am I teaching this person a lot? Am I teaching them a little? Am I teaching them on the misconceptions that they might already have? The second thing I'm getting into is obviously age and where they live. And before I get into anything, I'm asking them this question. Have you ever had anything major health-wise, heart, stroke, cancer, because you need to qualify for this based on your health? Reason I do that is because I'm overwhelmed. I have a million leads. I don't have time to sit here and explain the IUL to you if you have congestive heart failure. So if you tell me right off the bat where we're at health-wise, it's going to kind of give me an idea, will you qualify? Then I'm going to explain what it does, and I'm going to break it down simply: insurance, death benefit, living benefit, tax-free cash growth, the ability to borrow on it after a couple years, the protected from market loss, what have you. I'm going to ask them, do they have regular retirement, 401k, TSP, whatever. If they do, I'm going to try and like compare the two. So this way, if they have 401, I can kind of tell them in a nutshell how much it sucks and how they should have this, whether that be this in addition to it, this replacing it completely, or this, maybe half and halving it, right? Taking half of the money they have in a 401, putting half of it here. And then obviously I'm asking, other life insurances, because another thing I'm always trying to do, and I think this is big with people when it comes to like budgeting, I'm like the reallocation guy. And what I mean by that is everybody spends money. So like the thing that I hate hearing from agents is they don't have any money. It's America, people. Everybody has money. Now, do they have a lot of it? No, that's fine. But they're all making money in some way, shape, or form. Now, the question is, what are they doing with the money? So what I mean by reallocation is if I'm doing a budget with you next and I'm figuring out, all right, you make this, but you tell me you save, little to nothing, then I can figure out, oh, all right, well, you're paying $100 on a term. You're paying 3% in your 401. We can reallocate the money and we can find $200 there, move it here. Now you're their best friend because you got them what they were looking for, and all you did was move some money around. You didn't like get them a new bill. So I'm big into trying to play that game because it gets you that credibility that you're not just trying to, sell them something that they might not be able to afford, whatever. So I'm kind of playing that reallocation game. And then I think it's very important. You got to be passionate about what you're selling, right? So if you don't believe in the IUL, they're sure as shit never going to believe in the IUL. You got to talk about it as if it is the greatest thing ever once you know that they qualify. And throughout my process of my conversation, I'm dropping reasons why this makes more sense, right? In the reallocation department, if they have term, all right, you're paying for a term, 97% of people statistically will outlive it or it will lapse and it grows no money. So you're paying $100, cool, we'll use that over here. And then they're hearing these things and they're like, all right, well, that makes sense. Okay, well, you have your 401. You're putting in 6%. Your company matches 3%. So you're overfunding what they match. You're getting no money for what they match. And even what they do match, when you counter or think about taxes and when you think about fees down the road, it doesn't even make a whole hell of a lot of sense for what they even match. So my point is, like, you got to drop these things throughout the call and get them to agree. And then that takes them to the close to where it's like, okay, well, you brought a great case here. We know what we can reallocate and what we can do. Let's move forward and see if you qualify for it. So that's a little bit of the ways that I'm working. I know that was like a long answer to a short question, but hopefully that helps a little bit. Yep.
So you've got to handle it differently. But one thing that bothers me, especially like newer agents, is like they just go to IULs, and it's like, can you please explain to me what an IUL is? And they're like, it's like you got to start with final expense. If you're a brand new agent, just run final expense. Even like mortgage protection, with you, but like start with finals. If you start with an IUL or you're just running IULs, unless you're like really smart, you understand them through and through. I just don't see somebody consistently selling them, and they don't know about them because they're complex products. We get phone calls all the time. Hey, my premium went from this to this. I didn't know this did that, and it's like, well, the agent didn't explain it to you. Um, well, actually, one thing we've been doing with as a group, like, the more you produce, the more you'll have some chargebacks. What's your advice for managing chargebacks, protecting your income, cash flow? Because it's such a high volume, like you've got to be careful. You've got to pay attention to this stuff, right? Some people just don't even pay attention. They're just like, whatever, right? So.
Yeah. I'd say right off the bat, one of the things that drives me nuts with agents is like they don't know their money, right? Like, so meaning like when I wake up in the morning, I go and I make my coffee and I go to my office, and what am I looking at? I'm looking at commission statements. I'm looking at where their chargebacks, getting a hold of the clients. Like, you got to know your money. You also have to know your money in the sense of like, okay, you got all these deposits. Are you spending all of your money that isn't really your money? You know what I mean? Like, so I'm big on telling people, like, you got to structure your business around, all right, here's my business account that's going to get deposited 30 grand this month. And I'm going to pay myself a salary out of that money, whether it just be physically doing it, or do you use like I use a payroll system that every 2 weeks I have a salary set up. It pays me, it takes out taxes. And then I know like kind of what my budgeting is and what have you. And I'm not like so enthralled with like, oh, I deposited 100 grand. You know what I mean? Like, I'm more interested in like what went on there. And then, going back on chargebacks, where my money lays there. The other thing is like, if the sale doesn't feel good, like walk away from it. You know what I mean? Like, there's another one. Like, don't put yourself in a situation where they're not going to be able to afford it. They're not going to have money in their bank account. Like, walk away from Chime. Like, just like be smart about it. Don't just do it till you get paid tomorrow, because that's not going to really help you in the long run. And then if people do cancel, a couple of things that I try to do, I get them back on the phone, see what's what, try to lower it. Sometimes I even send those to agents on my team, because I'm like, all right, well, I suck. Let me send them to you, and you're a female. Maybe they'll like you better than me. And then we'll split it if you sell it. Like, you try and do what you can there. You're going to have it as a percentage. And again, it also goes back to, don't get too high, don't get too low. If you make 7 sales, like, don't take the week off next week. You know what I mean? Because 4 of them could fall off. You don't know.
I've never heard of that before. I've never heard, somebody cancels or bank draft or whatever, and giving that to a different agent. That's actually pretty genius.
Yeah, I started doing that a couple months ago. I'm like, all right, like, I might as well have, like, let's see if you try. Like, maybe they just didn't like me. Who knows?
That's really, really smart. Classic question, right? If you were starting over, what would you focus on mastering today? Basically, if there's a new agent sitting here, what should they master first in this business? What should they, work on the most?
I think, like you mentioned before, when people say like, I want to focus or sell this, and I hate that. So I think if you're new, you need to kind of look at the gamut of things and just try different leads, but run the appointments kind of the way that I said, where you're gonna sell to every type of lead. Like, I sell a ton of whole life policies to these IUL leads, right? Because one, they don't qualify for an IUL, and I'm very careful, like I said early on, where if I gauge your health and you tell me you have something that's not going to qualify, I immediately go with pivoting into like how whole life would make sense for you and figuring out their other insurance. So if you're new, the first thing I would do is set yourself up with actually proper business structure. So if you start an LLC, which is very easy to do, and let's say you, instead of taking your last dollars to go buy leads, and this is barring your credit is decent, not everybody's going to have the best credit, go and get a business loan or a business credit card. let's say you got 10 grand and you went and said, okay, I'm going to spend 1,500 a week on leads. I'm going to use, let's say, ideally, I like to tell agents 2 lead sources if it works out with what you're going to spend. And then I know that, let's say that's 6 grand. That 6 grand I'm going to use 1,500 a week from that credit card. I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to be on the phone. I'm going to be passionate about this. I'm going to be posting on social media about it. I'm going to talk to everybody and their mother about the fact that I do insurance. And I'm just going to go at it, day in and day out, 6 days a week, which is what I did pretty much from when I started. And then you start making deposits. And you say to yourself, I'm going to pay myself X amount a week or biweekly in a salary. And I'm going to start creating cash flow. And then when my credit card bill comes, if I had a great month and I made all the money back, awesome. I pay the credit card in full. I pay, ideally, if I get 0% interest, terrific. And then I rinse, wash, and repeat. And let's say I had a shitty month and I have a 0% interest credit card. All right, no big deal. I can pay a minimum and I can keep it moving for the next month, and I'll have a better month next month. That's the way to actually run this business. The problem is people get into it. And again, I get it. Not everybody has the greatest credit. They get into it and they're like, I have $1,000 and I'm going to go start my business. And then they suck the first week and they're out of business week 2. It's not the way you're going to do this. I tell people protect your cash at all costs if you can, and try to use credit and separate monies from your business and your personal. And don't intertwine the two. The problem is people go and they make 2 sales and then it's like, oh, all right, I went and I paid my car or my rent or whatever. Whereas like you wouldn't have even had that money prior to. And then you starved your business. And now you're out of business. So if you're new, that is the number one thing before we even talk about insurance that I would do.
Blocks on your schedule where sell time, I know obviously overwhelmed schedule, packed, start to finish. Is it blocked off sales, blocked off recruit?
Good question. So I have one, I'm very, very protective of my time, which I think everybody should be, right? I have 2 calendars that link, 2 calendar links that link to one calendar. One is like my sales calls, right? That people either book or I send to them to book. The other one is, I call it planning call, right? So if I have new agents, if I have agents that want to bring people on the team that we're going to do a call with or a Zoom, or if it's just a call to just go through stuff with an agent, when they want to talk to me, I send them the calendar and I'm like, book it on the calendar. What I try to not do is stop my day, unless it's obviously an emergency or whatever, you got to handle it. Stop my day where I have stuff booked and now so-and-so calls me for something and I stop everything I'm doing and now I'm behind. I'm protective of my time. I'll give you all the time in the world. If you're working, you're on my team, I will answer the phone 24 hours a day. But I'm not just going to stop everything I'm doing for no good reason. It has to be a good reason. So I'm constantly sending my link to people to book on my calendar. So it's just, they know when I'm available. I know when I'm available. We get on the phone, we get it done. That's the way I personally maximize my time.
This is exactly why we do these calls, because the first thing I'm doing when I get off is getting another calendar link, because I stop my day and end up not protecting my time. And I'm like, an hour or 2 or 3 behind, which is a lot when your schedule is packed.
Right.
So,
And you got to gauge, like if somebody calls you and it's like crazy important, like sure, like I'm obviously going to stop what I'm doing, but like not everything is crazy important. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah. I want to let anyone in here ask some questions, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
And then we can all get back to the grind. I just want to tell you, thank you very much for jumping on this call, and I want to make sure that everyone has time to ask you a couple of questions if they have some. So,
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Who's got questions? Anybody?
Yeah, I do. Hey, Steve, my name's Matt. I had a couple clients last week, older gentlemen. They were pretty well off, right, but in bad health. So, like, whole life was So they have, mostly their house paid off. They got retirement. The guy you mentioned, he had a lot of Bitcoin. And so we're looking at whole life. And I know I failed in it because I couldn't bring the value, right? Because in his mind, he's like, well, if something happens to me, my wife's got all of this, my retirement, I just don't think it's worth paying this price for whole life. What's your recommendation on how I can create value for that guy, that already has, he's pretty good financially.
He's in like his 70s.
Yeah, he was, like maybe 70, 68, somewhere
Yeah.
there.
I mean, sometimes annuity, depending on the situation, when if it's just strictly whole life, some of those are a little tough. Sometimes I'll tell people this, like, if you put money into insurance, right, and you spend, I'm sure he was going to be spending what, a couple $100 a month, $200-300 a month, right? If you put that money into insurance and you die, obviously in the short run, you're paying pennies on the dollar for a larger amount of money, right? Now, you might not get him a humongous policy because, like you said, he has a lot of other stuff. But I'm trying to say, okay, like if you put this little amount here monthly and I always try to look at the future. Let's say you live 10 years, right? In 10 years, you will have paid this. You do have some cash growth in there, and it's going to pay probably 3 times than what you paid into it. And the other thing I'll tell people is you do realize you're going to use the money you have, right? So yes, it sounds great when somebody tells you, hey, I'm 71 and I have X amount of money here, there, and everywhere. Then I'll tell them, well, number one, people are living longer today. So how much of that do you think you're going to use per year? Then let's fast forward you living 10 more years. Now, where do you stand in 10 years? Then you might need the insurance. So it's kind of like that thought process that I think people don't necessarily realize. They're like, oh, I have so much money. Well, that's great. You have it today, but you're going to probably use it. And then you get into like, all right, how much do you use of your monies a year? How much, what are you getting Social Security? What are you getting in other retirements? What's your income? How much are you using a year? Oh, I use, 90 grand. Okay. Let's fast forward you living 10 years. Where are you going to be then? If you use 90 grand a year of what you have today. And those are tough. You're not going to win every battle. You know what I mean?
That goes back to what you said earlier. We always talk about not writing iffy business, right? That's not necessarily iffy business because he can pay the premiums, but it's iffy need-wise.
Right. Yeah. Correct.
Why that's strong, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody else got questions? Oh, we got in the chat.
Yeah. What's your red flags for iffy biz?
Who say, yeah, I can only afford $50 a month, and what are your red flags for iffy biz?
Okay. So first of all, when they say the 50 a month or anything a month, the question is, did I do a budget with them or did I not? Right. So if they say that, I'll stop and do a budget. Right. Because sometimes people, the reality is most people we talk to have zero clue what their budget is. Like they just don't. And then you have some people that do that kind of bullshit you that like they tell you they don't when they do. So first thing I'm doing is I'm doing that budget and I'm going to look at reallocation. Like I said earlier, do they have other insurances? Do they have some things that they don't necessarily need that we can maybe find more money, right? The other thing on red flags is like, if you, like, I hate to say Chime or some of these banks that like a lot of these carriers don't take, like, I'm not really a huge fan of them. I'm not saying I never take them, but I'm asking questions like, when do you get paid? How many times a month do you get paid? Do you typically always have some funds in your bank account? Because I just don't want to deal with a million insufficients. And I get it. You're going to have it here and there. But I just think if it doesn't feel right, like you kind of know to walk away, Live to fight another day.
Appointments do you have booked on a daily basis, and how many conversations do you need to have to hit your number for the day?
It's funny. I've never in 6 years had like a number for the day. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. My number is more is the calendar full? Like, let's see, today I have, after this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 IUL appointments and 1 agent call, right? And I think, I'd say on average, I don't know, maybe I have 10, 11, 12, sometimes 15, whatever. I'm really worried about that. I don't worry about, I've never made a goal. I need to sell this week or this today. I'm like, fill the calendar. If I fill the calendar, I know I'm going to have some good days. I'm going to have some bad days. I'll tell you, I don't have a lot of days where I sell nothing. I might have a day where I sell 1. And what usually it does for me is I get this like pit in my stomach. I'm like, okay, like you suck today. You need to be better tomorrow, And when I have really good days, I'm like, cool, you had a good day. You need to really be better tomorrow. And I think that's the way you need to operate. When you think in those terms, you're not like, too high, too low. You're just like, what's next? Yes, sir. Love the one you're with. Now, what I will say to you is what you have to do in those scenarios is you got to gauge, do you feel you're closing this person? I am not going to be on the phone with you for like an hour. If I'm on the phone with you an hour, like you really talk too much and I did a very bad job of getting off the phone. These sales should not take a crazy amount of time. And again, you have some of these people that talk, whatever. So I think you got to just be careful of like, how long is your appointment? What are things maybe you could cut out? One thing that I know just, by default helped me when I got into virtual was in my head, I said, okay, I have to be quicker and concise because I don't want them to hang up. I don't want them to lose interest. So it made kind of my appointments, significantly quicker than if I was on an in-home. Another thing I'll tell you, I don't know if you have a team or not. This literally happened to me Friday. I had, 3 or 4 stacked appointments. I had one that we were closing, but the lady was having a hard time finding stuff. And then we finally got it, and I was overlapping into an appointment, and I just texted one of my agents, and I said, hey, take this. And then she sold it. So I think that, the team aspect helps you. But yeah, like, look, if you got somebody interested and you feel it's closing, like, stay there. We can always reschedule. And mentally, to me, if I'm always busy and I then called that person and rescheduled it, I can kind of say some things that are going to show that person that I'm really good at what I do. I'm so sorry. I just helped this lady here and it just went a little bit longer. And I'm so sorry. Can we reschedule or can we do this now to the next one? It like mentally is like, oh man, like, wow, he's super busy. Now you got to communicate it the right way. You don't want to come off as like, hey, I just forgot the appointment. You know what I mean? But it can show them like, oh man, like he's good at what he does and he's busy and he's selling other people. You know what I mean? So it can almost help you in a sense. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a battle. It's not an exact science, obviously. But you kind of know. Like I would stay with the ones you're with, and then try to just reschedule. Or like I said, if you have other agents that can help you, no doubt.
Jill put in the chat, besides other
Yeah, I think I'm trying to kind of loosely do a budget with people. I'm trying to figure out, like I said, what they're contributing to other retirements. What are they contributing to other insurances? What are they making? What are they spending? Um, and I'm finding the money in their overall budget there. And then I'll ask them, like, what's a number that you'd comfortably want to contribute to this? Like, once kind of like we've done the budget. And then they're going to tell me, and then I might make suggestions about the reallocation of, whatever they've already told me that they're paying. And I'm fun. Like, I know I have very high premiums and I have some good premiums, which is cool. But like, I'm not like always looking for that. Like I'm telling people, like, look, like, do 100 a month. Like, I'm not mad. Like, to go cheaper. Like, we can always add to it. One of the lines I tell people in IULs is, you kind of tell me what you want to contribute, and I'm going to be your guy moving forward. You're going to have all my info, my calendar, my card. Let's say in a year you want to do more. You're either going to call me and we're going to add more to this one, or we're going to do a second one. So I'd much rather you start lower. And then to our other question, when it's time to abandon ship, I mean, early on, like, if I'm not vibing with you, like I had this lady this morning, I wasn't vibing with her. I just moved on. And I gave it to one of my agents who's a female, and she can call her. I'm not worried about it. I know if I'm connecting with you, and if you actually want to listen to the things I have to say, if you're not receptive to number one questions, because I'm really big at, like, I'm asking you questions. Like, I'm not afraid to ask you about anything. And if you come across as like you don't want to give me the information, like, I know that I just need to move on, because I'm not going to sit here and play this semantic game. Sometimes some of these people like to play the game of, I don't want to give you all this information for whatever reason, right? And I'm just like, look, like, I'm not your guy. Like, I'm not here to hurt you. If you want to play this game of, I don't want to tell you this, that, and the other thing, like, go talk to somebody else, because this is the information that I need to help you.
What is the importance of a team, and when is it time to start building one from the chat?
I'd say the importance is whether you want to sell insurance forever or whether you want to make passive residual income forever and help a lot of people that that could utilize this opportunity. I wish my team was bigger. It's doing well. It's not ever, none of us are ever going to be where we want to be, right? So I'd say that is the importance. What I would caution everybody on is make sure that you recruit the right people. Now, are we all going to make a mistake? Every one of us that's recruited has recruited somebody who wasn't the right person. It's just the way it is. It's human nature. But I would tell you there's a high importance to create passive income so you can not be selling forever, which is the goal, right? That's certainly my goal. I don't want to be selling, 1.5 million every year. And my team's growing. So I'd say that's number one. And then number two, just do it with, I'd say, warm market people and people you can trust, and try to fire people you talk to before you hire them. And what I mean by that is put them through all the negative things that you deal with in the conversation in a recruiting call. And if they still want to do it, okay, now we got something. But if if everything negative that I tell you about this business, you're like, oh man, I don't want to deal with that. Like, cool. Like, I don't want to deal with you then. You got to, like, fire them before you hire them, if that makes sense.
To get out exactly, what this business is like. I feel like we often don't tell a new agent how hard this really is. Like,
Yep.
this is a difficult job, right? So there was a while there where, like, nobody even knew what a chargeback was until they had them, right?
Well, the problem is we do posts, and it's like, oh man, like, I just sold, and I do it too. I just sold 30 grand from the beach, and then I went out with my family, and, like, life is the greatest thing ever. Like, yes, that is true, but there's also other truths behind it. It's almost like we post things to entice, but then when you get people on the call, that's when you got to hit them with the truth. Like, this is what it looks like. It's not a get rich quick. It's a, you can get rich, but it's going to take probably more effort than you ever put into anything in your life. Are you willing to do that?
Willingness is everything. for one, maybe two more guys.
I'm gonna jump in and ask you a question here. First of all, Steve, thanks, bro, for showing up. For those of you that don't know Steve, he shows up for everything. He's been at every event I go to. He's always asked to speak. Shows up, pours into agents all the time. So we appreciate that. Thank you for taking the time
Thank you.
with us today. So my question for you, bro, is if you started today, right? You had no team, you've never sold a policy, but you had all the knowledge and the mindset that you have now. What would like your first 30 days look like? Because we have a lot of new agents on here trying to figure it out. Like, how would you attack this business first 30 days with the knowledge that you have now?
Yeah, it's a good question. And one of the things that was definitely helpful for me is I started out like I wrote 21 grand my first month, and then I did 21, 34, like 57. So I had a good like start and trajectory. I think for me, even going back, it was just people like they're afraid to fail when they start, right? So what they do then is they're timid around everything. They're timid around their lead spend, their dialing. They feel like they have to know everything. They feel like they can't make a mistake, and it like cripples you. You have to, when you start, you have to fail forward, right? Like I can think back my first couple months, like there were appointments I didn't close. And then in hindsight, I'm like, man, like if that was today, like I would have closed that in 5 minutes. But I learned, and it didn't hinder me. And then what happens with these new agents is if they do try and they put themselves out there and they fail a little bit early on, they're like, oh my God, this business isn't for me. And then they completely walk away from what could be the greatest opportunity they ever had. So if I could go back and I'm new, I'm just like diving in and diving into actual activity. And if I buy some leads and I get some people on the phone and I make a mistake, do I then go and talk to my upline or somebody here, because God knows there's a million people you can talk to, of, hey, I screwed this up. What should I do differently? And I feel like a lot of new agents, they don't necessarily do that. They just kind of like, they fail and they don't want to admit they failed. And you have to be this is a humbling business. Like I'm humbled every day, every single hour, minute of every day. As good as it is, and as much as I've sold, I'm always humbled. So for a new agent, you got to do that. You have to go at it, give it the time and effort. And if you fail, find your mentor, figure out what you did wrong, what you could now do right, and be coachable. If you're not coachable and not putting in the work, you're dead in the water when you start out.
And I think that's key too. You said that in there. Talk to your mentor. Make sure you're talking to the people who have had success and have failed and been humbled, to your point. But don't just go talk to the other agent who is also struggling and failing, and you talk about the same failures together, and nothing good comes out of that.
Yeah, you're just complaining with each other.
Yeah, exactly. No, man, it's been great. Thank you for spending the 52 minutes with us, bro. It's truly been a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I don't know, Mike, if you have anything else to wrap this thing up, but
no, man, I just took a ton out of that. I have 2 pages basically, so we appreciate you. Needs to be done more. This is how the new guy learns, and this is how the seasoned, agent just gets better every day. We have to get better every day. So we appreciate you big time, man, and thank you very much. And to continued success, you'll probably be up on stage holding up the belt this year too. So it's awesome to watch, to be honest with you. But thank you very much, man.
You got it. Pleasure being on with you guys, and I wish you all the success. And just go at this business, go at it hard every single day, and fight through, and good things will happen.
Thank you so much, man. Guys, have a blessed Monday. Go crush it. Set yourself up.
Be good. Take care. You got it.